The internet is obsessed with finding the perfect high-income skill. Scroll LinkedIn and its gurus in borrowed offices selling certainty. Scroll TikTok and its kids flexing screenshots like casino chips, everyone arguing about what pays best, what scales fastest, what's future-proof. And they're all asking the wrong question, because the real question isn't what skill makes the most money. The real question is, what vehicle gets you out before London decides the terms for you? Because London isn't loud when it takes from you. It's subtle. It's like a direct debit you forgot to cancel. Small amounts every month until one day you check your balance and realize 5 years disappeared. This city will eat your time the way rust eats metal. Quietly, patiently, and permanently if you ignore it. And appointment setting. Boring, unglamorous, painfully unsexy. But the thing is, appointment setting might be the most reliable escape route nobody wants to admit works. Now here's something that's going to upset the confidence industry. You do not need confidence to be an appointment setter. You don't need charisma. You don't need to be naturally good at sales. That's Instagram fiction. That's highlight reel psychology pretending to be real life. What you actually need is reps and frameworks. That's it. While everyone else is watching mindset videos like their religious sermons, you could be making calls the way a factory stamps parts. Same motion, same pressure, same output, and getting paid while they're still working on themselves. People think appointment setting is about charm. They imagine some smooth-talking movie character, perfect tone, perfect timing, closing deals with personality alone. That idea is nonsense. Real appointment setting isn't performance art. It's plumbing. It's infrastructure. You don't admire it, you rely on it. It's pattern recognition. It's systems. It's levers and switches. About as exciting as the district line at rush hour, but just as reliable at getting you where you need to go. Here's what actually happens when businesses hire appointment setters. They don't care if you sound like James Bond. They don't care if you sound nervous or scripted. They care about one thing only. Can you get qualified people on the phone with their closers? That's it. They want data, not vibes. Consistency, not confidence. Meetings that show up, not personalities that sparkle. And that's where most people misunderstand the game entirely. Think about how people choose skills. They choose them the same way tourists choose restaurants. Bright lights, big promises, pictures that look better than the reality. No one asks, will this keep me alive if I stay here too long? They ask, does this look exciting enough to tell people about? That's how you end up 6 months deep into something that looks impressive on Twitter, but doesn't pay you enough to breathe in this city. Here's what businesses actually want from appointment setters, and this part is painfully unsexy. They want someone who understands the offer well enough to spot who's worth talking to and who isn't. They want consistent activity, accurate notes, meetings that actually show up. They want predictability, not peaks and crashes, not motivation spikes followed by burnout, predictable output. Because personality is unreliable. Some days you feel sharp, some days you feel flat. Some prospects love charm, others think it's suspicious. A framework doesn't care how you feel. It works when you're confident and when you're tired. It works when the prospect's friendly and when they're cold. That's why structure beats personality every single time. And the framework is simple, almost boring enough that people ignore it. You research the prospect. You identify their pain points. You open with relevance, not rapport. You ask questions that expose problems. You position the meeting as the solution. You handle objections with prepared responses. You book the appointment. You confirm the appointment. That's it. No motivational speeches. No belief work. No hype music playing in the background. Just execution. Most people fail at appointment setting because they treat it like performance art. They think every call has to be perfect. They get emotional when someone hangs up. They personalize rejection. That's like getting angry at the weather. It's not personal, it's statistical. Professional setters understand this. They know most calls will be no's. They know qualified prospects are rare. They're not trying to convince everyone. They're filtering conversations. They're mining for gold. They're not trying to turn lead into gold with positive thinking. Every objection teaches them something. Every booked call reinforces a pattern. Every bad day still moves the numbers forward. That's why appointment setting accelerates learning faster than almost any other skill. You don't learn in theory, you learn in contact. It's like learning to swim by being in the water instead of watching videos about breathing techniques. And once you're in proximity to money, real conversations, real deals, real problems, you start seeing the game differently. That's when boring stops looking boring. It starts looking like leverage. Here's the mental shift most people never make. They think their job is to convince people, to persuade, to perform. It's not. Your job is to filter. You're not there to make everyone say yes. You're there to find the people who already should say yes and pass them to someone who can actually help them. That's not selling, that's sorting. Think of it like airport security. You're not judging people, you're not arguing with them. You're just checking who's cleared to go through and who needs to step aside. Most appointment setters quit in the first month because they measure the wrong things. They count rejections instead of conversations. They focus on feelings instead of bookings. They treat it like a popularity contest instead of a numbers game. Winners track activity. They track conversion rates. They optimize questions, not emotions. Because rejection in this job is like red lights in traffic. You don't take it personally. You don't scream at the dashboard. You expect it and you keep moving. And here's something nobody tells you about London. Rejection is already everywhere. You get rejected from flats you can't afford anyway. You get rejected by jobs that barely cover your travel card. You get rejected on dates over postcodes and job titles. At least with appointment setting, rejection pays you to get better at handling it. And when you're setting for high-ticket offers, something else happens quietly in the background. You hear how real businesses think. You listen to real money conversations. You learn what problems wealthy people actually pay to solve, not what Twitter argues about. It's like sitting behind the scenes at a magic show. Once you see the wires and levers, the illusion disappears forever. That knowledge compounds. It turns into confidence that isn't borrowed from motivation videos. It turns into judgment, taste, timing, and eventually, options. Options are the real currency in this city. Options mean you can leave London or stay and actually enjoy it instead of just surviving it. Options mean rent isn't a monthly panic attack. Options mean time stops feeling like it's chasing you down the street. That's what boring buys you: space, choice, breathing room. And that's why the people who last in appointment setting aren't the loud ones. They're the quiet, systematic ones. The ones who treat it like a craft, not a personality trait. They study their calls. They refine their frameworks. They turn opinion into data and emotion into process. And over time, boring starts to look a lot like freedom. Here's where people get confused about high-income skills. They argue about which one is best, like there's a single winning lottery ticket, and everyone else is stupid for not buying it. But high-income skills aren't trophies, they're vehicles, different engines, same destination. Appointment setting gets you there through volume and proximity. High-ticket closing gets you there through fewer, heavier conversations. Property gets you there through leverage and patience. YouTube automation gets you there through systems and attention. Crypto gets you there through timing and tolerance for chaos. None of them are better or worse. They're just different roads, and choosing the wrong one doesn't kill you. It just wastes years. That's the part people underestimate. Time doesn't explode. It leaks. 6 months here, a year there. Always almost figuring it out. Always one more course away from clarity. In a cheaper city, that's annoying. In London, it's dangerous. Because boring has an advantage nobody brags about. Boring is predictable. Boring compounds. Boring doesn't care about market cycles or algorithms or hype. Boring pays, whether Bitcoin is up or down, whether property's hot or frozen, whether your video flops or goes viral. Appointment setting is boring in the same way a salary is boring, in the same way gravity is boring, in the same way breathing is boring. You only notice how important it is. When it's gone, that predictability creates something rare. Options. Options let you choose your next move instead of having it chosen for you. Options mean you're not staring at your banking app, hoping numbers magically rearrange themselves. This is why the people who succeed long-term aren't the naturally gifted ones. They're the ones who treat this like engineering, not art. They track their numbers, they test small changes, they review what actually converts, they build boring little improvements that stack like bricks. And one day, you look back and realize the wall's already built. You didn't notice it happening because none of it was exciting. That's the irony. Everyone's chasing freedom through excitement, but freedom usually comes through something dull, repetitive, and deeply unsexy, done well for longer than most people can tolerate. That's why appointment setting works, not because it's glamorous, but because it buys you time before the city decides the terms for you. So while everyone else is still arguing online about which skill is the smartest, the fastest, the sexiest, remember this: there is no perfect skill. There is only the skill that gets you out in time, out before London decides how much of your life it's allowed to take, out before your 20s and 30s blur into rent cycles and tube delays, out before "I'll figure it out soon" turns into "I should have started earlier." Appointment setting isn't impressive at dinner parties. It doesn't sound clever on podcasts. No one's making documentaries about it. But it works. It works because it's accessible, because it's learnable, because it rewards action instead of intention. It works the way walking works. Slow, unexciting. But if you keep moving, you eventually end up somewhere different. Most people never leave the starting line because they're still choosing the perfect shoes. They want certainty before movement. They want guarantees before effort. They want excitement before discipline. And London doesn't wait for any of that. The people who win here aren't the loudest. They're not the most confident. They're not the ones with the best story. They're the ones who picked something boring, showed up when it stopped feeling new, and let consistency do the heavy lifting. Appointment setting isn't a dream. It's a tool, like a ladder. You don't live on it. You use it to climb. And once you're up there, with options, with perspective, with proximity to real money, you can choose your next move properly. Stay, leave, build, pivot. But this time, the choice is yours. Because sometimes the most boring path isn't a compromise. It's the exit.